Good morning, guys. Welcome to IC Talk Show. With me, your host, Ziljan Ramzani, will lead you to a talk show. What contributes to a successful communications? In my part, it's about developing an intercultural communicative competence. Okay, here I want to show you an example on how the communications work between a Chinese and an American. The role perceived by and assigned to interpreters by speakers has an impact not only how terms are located, but also on what is to be interpreted or how interpret in a culturally appropriate way. Okay, some example can be found next. Look at this. Kolu in Chinese literally means think it over. It is often used as an indirect refusal to a request in Chinese context. But how shall an interpreter interpret this utterance, rendering it as, well, we'll think over, maybe misleading, but specifying its underlining mention. It is not from us, but to save face. We don't want to say it directly. May turn out to be wrong. Okay? And then, example in 8.4, which is I'm gonna show you guys after this, contains a problematic intervention by an entrepreneur despite his best intention. During a Chinese business delegation's visit to a British engineering company, the British chairman made a welcome speech and then asked his staff to introduce themselves. After this, he invited the Chinese visitors to introduce themselves. The following extract details what happened next. Here it is, guys, the example in 8.4. The context that a welcome meeting with ENT means interpreter. Okay, there is Jack and the interpreter, Sun, Chan, and Su. The interpreter, who has a Chinese PhD, student in a local university and hired by the British company, stepped in at turn 7 when the leader of the Chinese delegation decided to ignore the chairman's request and began to make his reciprocal speech in reply to the chairman's welcome speech. Assuming that the leader did not understand him, the interpreter interrupted the leader and gave a specific and somewhat patronizing instruction on how to make a self-introduction. This took the leader by surprise, but he gave in. In the next few turns, he managed to give himself an introduction with cues from his fellow man business. The question is, was the interpreter intervention unnecessary or appropriate? At that time, for the Chinese delegation, self-introduction was not their priority. They were more concerned about saying a few words of appreciation out of the courtesy. This misalignment within what they wanted to do and what they were expected to do was made worse when the interpreter attempted to regulate the interaction. The example shows that although interpreters are obligated to clarify misunderstanding and to facilitate the interaction, what is to be clarified and how to facilitate interaction are matter of negotiation and discretion. Okay, guys, on part 2, we are developing intercultural communicative competence. In 8.4, understanding professional and institutional discourse. So far, we have focused on what we do to manage differences in linguistic competence and misunderstanding in interaction. In these sections, we are going to explore how knowledge about the system, in particular knowledge of professional and institutional discourse, can facilitate an effective communication in institutional interaction. We draw insight mainly from the studies on institutional discourse. Let us first look at the following extract from 2 election interview. Latter China's both execs have recently lost their job and were applying for a paid traineeship at a public publicly funded institution in the UK. The trainee in the first one was an electrician of South Asian background. He spoke fluent in English and had lived in UK for over a decade. The trainee in the second one was a bricklayer, a native speaker from the local area. Well guys, here comes the example. There is two examples here. We can see from the example 8.5 and 8.6. In the two extracts, the interview asked more or less the same question at the beginnings, turns 1 and 3 in both examples. But there were differences in the way the trainees respond to the questions and how to the interviews subsequently. The electrician in the first one gave a minimal response and did not offer any additional information about his visit to the skill center. Without any content or topic to respond to, the interview went on to check whether the electrician was familiar with the financial implications of the training in turns 5 and rephrased in question again in turn 7. After getting another minimal response from the electrician in turn 6, the bricklayer in the second extract responded to the interview questions less formally and offered an evaluate comment about the brick shop in the turn 4. In the same turn, he also tried to rephrase his comment and paused in mid-sentence as if he was trying to adjust his comment to be more appropriate to the context of the interview. After all, okay sounded by lukewarm. In turn 5, the utterance by supplying an evaluate praise. Alright. His contribution was in turn met with a positive response from the bricklayer, who acknowledged the repair by praising his evaluate comment once again. Okay guys, that's all from me from today's host talk show in IC Talk Show. Okay? If you like this video, considering like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comment in down below and I will ask you guys about something in the comment section down below. And also don't forget to fill the attendance form in the comment, okay? See you.